everyone, my name is Patrick Evans. I'm one of the owners of MarieBette Cafe and Bakery, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to start your own levain using our sourdough starter that's been dehydrated, and with it we're going to make a loaf of sourdough. So what you're going to do first, you're going to take this dried sourdough, pour it in your container. You can see it's a mix of different sizes, but we're going to dissolve that in warm water. So tear your scale, put it to 0, and then you're going to add 150 grams of warm water. We're going to let that dissolve for about 30 minutes before we add our flour. We're going to take a look at that now. You can see, if you look underneath, you can still see a lot of little pieces of the starter, but it's starting to dissolve. We're not going to worry about that too much because once we add the flour to it, mix it up, it'll continue to break down. So what you want to do is add 135 grams of bread flour to that mixture. Again, you want to be precise and use a scale. Even though this is about a cup of flour, just use a scale. All flours are a little different in weight, and depending on how you scoop them, you'll come out with a different measurement. So we always use a gram weight just because it's easier to calculate and multiply. So I've got 135 grams there. I'm going to stir it well. I'm going to see it's very sticky. Looks like a sticky mess, but that's a good thing. You can see what it looks like from here. Just give it a good stir, make sure you get all the dry clumps from the bottom. And then scrape your spoon down. And what I like to do is scrape the sides so we have a nice clean edge. At the top, put a lid on this. If you have a glass jar, you can screw on the lid and leave it loose. If you have a plastic container like this one, you can see right through. And we're going to mark right where the level is right now, so we're going to see in 24 hours what this looks like. We might have a little bit of activity, but we're just going to mark it so we know for sure. So we're going to come back and look at that in 24 hours. So it's been about 24 hours and we're checking on the status of our flour, water, dehydrated levain mixture. And as you can see from the outside, it's not that much different than yesterday in level, but it's about 1/4 of an inch higher. So we're going to look at the inside and it looks different. It looks a little liquidy on top with some bubbles, and that means there is some fermentation going on. So we're going well, but we knew we weren't going to be quite ready at this point. So what we're going to first do is give it a good stir, ensure any of those clumps that hadn't dissolved yesterday are thoroughly mixed in. We're almost giving them new flour to feed on if they haven't mixed up yet, so we're kind of refreshing them, and we're going to give it another feeding. So with that, you need a new container, and we're going to put just about a tablespoon of this, 15 grams, into your container. 135 grams of water. And at this point, it's equal parts water and flour. Take your spoon and scoop 135 grams of flour and give that a good stir. Since we did have a little bit of activity in that first 24 hours, this is going to move a lot faster. So in about 12 to 18 hours, we're going to check the level again. And We may be ready to mix the bread. We may need to do one more feeding. So just scrape it down again, give the sides a nice clean scrape down. Mark the side exactly where the level is, so you'll be able to tell in 12 to 18 hours where we're at. So mark the time you finished and the level. So yeah, we'll see you back in 12 to 18 hours. Thank you. So it's been a little bit more than 18 hours, which is fine, but I have the sourdough that we fed yesterday. It looks like the sourdough rose up to here and then fell back down to just above the line. So we definitely have some activity, but it's not quite ready for making bread. If you look inside, you can see lots of more bubbles than yesterday. The smell is a lot more fermented smelling, almost yogurt-like and sweet. Stir it up and you can get more of that smell, and we're going to do exactly the same thing as we did yesterday. So 15 grams of this starter, 135 grams of water, and then equal parts flour, so 135 grams of flour. Give it a good stir. Scrape down your bowl, your container. And I like to mark the side again, just see exactly how far we've come. So we'll see you in another 12 to 18 hours to see where we're going, but I have a good feeling this is going to be the last time we have to feed before we make a loaf of bread. So it's been a little more than 18 hours. It's been a little bit cooler today, so I waited a little bit longer. You can see there's a lot of little bubbles on top of the levain, and it's grown pretty much double in height in this vertical container. So we know we're ready to make bread. If you don't have quite that amount of activity, you can do another feeding, repeat yesterday's step again, and you should be good to go. Make sure you're putting it in a warm spot, probably like 75 degrees, and then you'll definitely get enough activity. So we're going to measure our ingredients in our bowl. So we're going to do 190 grams of this. It's going to leave a little bit left over to make another batch of starter for making a loaf in the future. Maybe tomorrow, maybe a couple days from now. You can always put your starter away in the fridge if you aren't going to make the loaf right away. 315 grams of room temperature water. And 50 grams of rye flour, 20 grams of whole wheat flour, 425 grams of bread flour. Wait to add your salt until after this initial mix. We're going to incorporate the dry and the wet ingredients together. Let it rest for 30 minutes. Once all your dry ingredients are incorporated, and at this point we're going to cover it gently with a towel and 30 minutes. So it's been 30 minutes since we mixed our initial ingredients. It's had a chance to absorb, the water is absorbed a little bit more into the flour. And we're going to add our 12 grams of salt. Just pour it gently over. I'm going to go right in with our hands and scrape the edge and fold over. So if you could see what I'm doing, I'm literally just folding it in from the edges and turning as I go. Do this continually for 3 minutes. You can see it's been 3 minutes and it's starting to get a little bit smoother. The dough is a little bit more cohesive. And you can see the gluten is developing, forming a smoother outside. So that means we're good to go. Leave it in the bowl, cover it for an hour and a half. What you're going to do is sprinkle a little bit of flour on the table. Using a bowl scraper, you want to loosen gently that dough out of the bowl and onto the flour. What we're going to do is gently fold it over on itself 1 time, 2 times from the top, 3 times, 4 times. You should have a nice smooth surface, and you're going to put that right back into the bowl. Cover it and rest it another 1.5 hours in somewhere warm, probably like 75 to 80 degrees. If you have a proofing setting in your oven or just a warm spot in your kitchen, that'll do great. So it's been an hour and a half since our first fold. We're going to fold it 1 more time. So flour your surface with your bowl scraper, loosen the dough, and flip it out as evenly as you can onto the table. Repeating what we did the last time, you're going to fold one side, the other side, the top, and the bottom, kind of like an envelope. Flip it over, right back into your bowl. Cover and let it rest for 1 hour. So it's been an hour, and our bread has risen a little bit more. It's gotten a little bit more bubbly, and it's ready to shape. What we're going to do is sprinkle a little bit of flour on top of your dough. Take your bowl scraper, gently loosen it, and pour it out onto the table. At this point, we're going to take 1 portion of dough and put it to the middle, and then do the opposite side, the 4 corners, and then the 4 more corners that are left. You're going to do that 8 times. Flip it over, and you want a really smooth surface, and you're going to sort of tuck while you pull on the table, and it's going to tighten the dough. You're going to feel the dough getting nice and tight, but you don't want to over tighten it, you just want to leave it like that. Take a clean bowl, line it with the towel you had, and generously sprinkle flour in the bowl. Take your loaf and flip it upside down inside, covering it with a towel. At this point, we are going to wait an hour and a half before baking. Alternatively, we can put it in the fridge overnight and bake it tomorrow. So I just took this dough out of the fridge. It's been in there overnight. I didn't have time to bake it. So I'm going to do it now. So I'm going to let it come up a little bit to room temperature while I get my other stuff ready. So it's been about 45 minutes, and I'm going to preheat my Dutch oven in a 450 degree oven for another 45 minutes to get it nice and hot. So our Dutch oven has been preheating for almost 45 minutes, so I'm going to just get everything else ready. We need a sharp knife, your bread, your dough, and a little place to put your hot Dutch oven when it comes out of the oven. So you have your hot Dutch oven. Sprinkle a little bit of flour on your dough just to get it, make sure it doesn't stick to our surface. Your hot Dutch oven just came out of the 450 degree oven. I'm going to remove the top. Carefully dump your dough onto the table so you can score it without the pot getting in the way. So I'm going to do a simple X. Cut about a half inch through the surface of the dough and carefully lift this back in and lower it into the pan. Putting the top on and putting it back into the 450 degree oven. We're going to leave it in there for 20 more minutes. So it's been 20 minutes and I just removed this Dutch oven out of the oven. I'm going to remove the lid. So that lid really trapped a lot of steam and it allowed the bread to get a nice rise on it, if you can see that. Got a nice oven spring, and I'm going to put it back in the oven without the lid for 20 more minutes. It's been 20 minutes, and as you can see, this bread has got a nice color and is ready to come out. So I'm going to carefully dump it out, let it cool in a wire rack before slicing into it. If you can't resist, no one's watching, you can eat it hot out of the oven too. I just can't wait any longer to cut into this loaf, so I'm going to go ahead and see what we look like inside. So, the sharp bread knife. As you can see, we have lots of nice air pockets, and overall, very happy with this loaf. So, happy baking, and I hope you enjoy tasting your own sourdough.